Tom Hassan. I am the president of SYA, and if I haven't met you before, I look forward to meeting you in the coming months and years. So now that we're starting to emerge from pandemic time. Speaking of that, we're delighted to say to you that we have students in SYA abroad this year after our first year ever without students last year. What's wonderful to see is the same enthusiasm and outpouring and connection to host families and learning the language that has always been the hallmarks of SYA. This year, a little bit different. You know, students are wearing masks and they're socially distanced, but I was just saying to Jeff as we're getting on that we are taking students on trips, so they're safe and doing well in that regard. So we're just ecstatic about the fact that we have students abroad. Second thing I'm delighted to report is that we finished our first ever comprehensive capital campaign in SYA's history, and that raised more, bypassed our goal of $18 million. And I can't thank all of you enough to have supported SYA either in that campaign or over the years in other ways. So it's a very close-knit family, I would say. And so it's nice to be part of this wonderful gathering today and gathering of SYAers all across the country and the world. I want to introduce today our first webinar of this academic year, and I'm going to introduce Jeff Locker, and then he in turn is going to introduce Tia, and those two will have a conversation. But let me tell you a little bit about Jeff. Jeff is France class of '88, and if I get anything wrong, Jeff, correct me. Class of '88. He's an actor, a writer, a media host. He's based now in LA, although you did kind of get the travel spirit when over in France because you spent your junior year from Yale over in China, right? And you studied in schools over there, Beijing Foreign Language Normal School and Taiwan Normal University. And that got you to stay in Taiwan for a while and doing the work you're now doing back in LA. So there's a lot of good conversation we can have about all the wonderful kind of tentacles you've had in the world, Jeff, and your heart is now in the writing and acting and hosting. So I'm delighted to say thank you today. I'm delighted to have you here, and I'm going to let you take it away. And Tia, thank you, and we'll see you both, I hope, very soon out in LA.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Hi, Rick. Wow, just saying France '88 just sent like a shockwave through my Hollywood-based body. I was like, well, that was a couple years ago. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much to everybody at SYA for inviting us to do this today. I think as many of you who are watching might share the same feeling that SYA was one of the, if not the best decision, at least that I ever made. Completely life-changing for this guy who, grew up in a small town in Ohio and didn't really even know where France was when he was growing up. So it's really exciting for me to finally be able to give back a little bit to the community, especially during these difficult times. And to talk to somebody whose career we've never met. We've been in the same town for how long now? But I have had friends in the community speak highly of her, especially in the writing community. And she has worked on so many of my favorite shows. And I say this not because you're here, but because you literally have. That's why I've been following your career, from Grey's Anatomy to Scandal, Council of Dads to Cruel Summer, which I just binged last weekend, and it's amazing. So yeah, let's just get to it. Tia, how are you?
Hi, I'm so good. Nice to be here with you.
Yeah, I was very excited. The leaf blowers just showed up right outside my window. So if
they always do.
They always do. If you want to know what life is like, it's sunny and cold for us, and leaf blowers are everywhere. But that is fall in LA. So you are SYA France. Yeah. So how's your French? That's always the first thing when we run into SYAers is how's your French? How's your Spanish? How's your Chinese?
Not good.
No?
It is not good. No, it's not great. I've been back a couple times.
I'm not trying to shame you or anything like that.
No. I just wasn't one of those French superstars at my time there. I hate to say that, but it's going back, I still have enough that I can get around, I can understand things, I can read things, I could pick it up in like a movie. So I'm happy about that.
I was pleased to say the last, because I lived in Taiwan for about 15 years, so I speak and I teach Mandarin. And
Wow.
the last time I spoke to my French little sister, she was like, "You have a Chinese accent in French now," which she's like, "You sound like the Chinese restaurant people where I go down the street." And I was like, "That's quite a journey to have taken over the years."
I love that. I
But
love that so much.
But speaking of, entertainment, it's great that we're getting access to, obviously we've been able to see French movies and et cetera, but, with big hits where everybody's watching, even just watching Call My Agent, 10% and Lupin and whatever, it's been nice to kind of pick that back up again. But yeah, I always feel intimidated when somebody's like, "Yeah, so do you speak?" And I'm like, "It was a couple years ago. Give me a second."
Yeah. It was a while ago.
Yeah. Some days it feels like a really long time ago, but it's always great I sometimes explain, to my Hollywood friends, I'm like, no, this is a big deal. We did the same program, same year. No, but it's a small house in Western France. Like it's all extended family. So happy to finally make the connection. So let's get into it. What was what got you into writing and Hollywood? What was your kind of journey from what you were doing before to what you're doing now?
Sure. I always, in school, writing was always my focus. I was always drawn towards writing jobs, and being on the East Coast, I didn't really understand that TV writing was a thing. It wasn't anything that I had focused on. And actually, Heidi McAdams, who was FR'01 with me, was from California, and she went to USC grad school, and she was working as an assistant in LA. And she got me out here. She just said, "I think this is something that you also would be good at. You should come out here. I'm doing it. You should do it." And it's really cheesy, but it is that SYA connection of like, we were family. And I was like, "Okay, Heidi's doing it. I'll go." And she's a big time TV writer producer too. Like, we both just did it. So I started in the mailroom at ICM.
ICM as a talent agency for the uninitiated.
ICM is a talent agency, and literally the mailroom, like delivering the mail.
Really? There's literally a mailroom? Well, I guess there
was. I don't know if there is now, but it was like pushing a mail cart and sorting the mail, and like that old trope. I did it.
Wow, okay. So you started at an agency, which is the way a lot of people actually get their starts, even on the actor side. It's a kind of a way to meet people without having to just hit the pavement and audition and try to hustle. So then what was your first, what got you into writing in terms of, had you written a script or a short play, or do you remember what the first thing you sent to someone to represent you as a writer?
Oh God. Well, I had always been, I was a journalism major. So I had published some stuff in local papers. That's kind of what I had in terms of writing on paper. Yeah. And so at ICM, we had access to this closet of scripts, and it was the year I think they shot Community, and Modern Family either was pitched or aired that year. And I thought I wanted to be a comedy writer. So I read all these scripts, and I wrote an office spec and applied for, fellowships. These shows sound like ancient history now. But that's like the sample that I kicked around for a long time. And then it got nowhere, like just no traction, nothing. I'm sure it was not good. And
sounds very familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. And I bounced from, I got a desk for this agent named Mark Gordon, not the producer, a different guy. And he heard about an opening on Grey's Anatomy as the PA, which is basically, it's super entry level. You get the coffee, you print scripts, you get lunch, you get groceries. And I just jumped at the chance because I wanted to work for people that I wanted to be. It's like, I knew I didn't want to be an agent. It wasn't the right place for me. It was a really good education and great to get connections, but the chance to go do something, no matter what it was, just to be in that room, to hear the writers talking. I was just really honored and excited, and it's how I met lifelong mentors, lifelong friends. It's where I got my first script. and learned from the bottom up. I had no formal education. I had no sample. I mean, I had formal education, but not in film, not in writing. I mean, not that it matters. Yeah, I don't think you need it. I just kind of learned on the job.
Yeah. How did you, so quick note, my dog is, because she's terrified of the leaf blowers. So if you see me doing this, I'm trying to calm my shaking, anxiety ridden dog down.
Poor
This
baby.
is Greta. This is Greta.
Hi.
Yeah, but how did you, we talk a lot about, especially as writers, your voice, right? And when you're a new writer, it seems like this mysterious thing that's, you're going to go on some meditation retreat and then suddenly like find your voice. But how did you find your voice? I don't know if there's a way to describe your voice, but how did you kind of find where you felt like you belonged in the world of writing?
Actually, when I got the writer's PA job, I had written this thing. I think it was called 7 Sentences. There was this like writing blog called 7 Sentences, and I had written this like funny, really quick thing about waiting tables that was like sarcastic and kind of me. And the guy that hired me, that was running Grades at the time, had Googled my name and found it and thought like, oh, this kid has a voice. And him saying that to me, I was like, I do have a voice. I do. Like, I hate to say that because it's not very helpful, but I think we all have voices. It's like, if you picture the people in your life, you can picture things that they would say or that they wouldn't say, and just tuning into what's that for you, it's in there.
Yeah, that's such because I'm a writer too. I started out as a playwright, and the first time somebody said, because I was always trying to think of like, I've got to recreate the wheel. I've got to write something that nobody's ever written before. And when I was bringing scenes into my acting class, saying I found it on the interwebs because I was ashamed. I had writer shame. And once I was kind of outed as a writer, people would say, oh, within a couple lines, we know that it's a Jeff Locker piece because that's your voice, right? Like we recognize your style. And that's for any budding writers out there, that's such a huge, like, recreating the wheel is something that rarely happens, but somebody reading a piece and knowing that it's you, and you have, you could write a Station 19, you could write a hospital, you could write a whatever, but it's always going to be you regardless. So that's kind of your voice. That's an LA 10 a.m. way of explaining how writing works.
Totally. There's this like very cheesy thing I used to say, because now, so I run Cruel Summer, but previously I did a job called the number 2, which is like the next in command after a showrunner. And you kind of are the liaison between the showrunner and the rest of the staff. And I always would say to the staff over and over, and I say it to my staff now, it's very like coming from SYA, but it's we're all speaking the language of the showrunner, but in our own accents. It's like you're all bringing yourself to it, but we have the same language in common, but it's going to sound different coming out of every one of us, even though we're all in the same show. So that's like another way to put it when you finally get on staff, as opposed to just writing your own material.
I love that though. I understand why you would think that was cheesy, but to somebody who hasn't heard it,
is.
I'm like, oh my God, because that resonates, because especially when you're new, you have so much pressure to write in that person's voice, and thinking of it as an accent. I think that's kind of nice. How do you think, is SYA a thing that is like active in your brain, or do you find it coming up in moments where you are challenged, or you are meant to lead, or you're speaking on international topics? Like how's that played a role kind of in your development post school?
Huge. It just was such a pivotal year for me, and I have a really good memory. Especially now I write about teenagers, so I think about those years. And one of the first pilots I tried to write was about this Amish girl. It's also not good, but I was thinking like, who is she? And I thought, oh, she's adventurous. And it really clicked for me. I like to write about adventurous people. And I think a lot of that is SYA. It's Alice in Wonderland, like who does stuff like that? And so I think about it a lot, and I just made the best friends of my life. And we had, it was a like wonderful privileged vacation and a wonderful education on the one hand, but it really it just teaches you how independent you can be. We were only 16 when we went. And I always tell this story. it's just like, this is how crazy it was. My host family was outside of the city in La Chapelle. So I had to take a bus to get home, and you're just tired. You're a teenager, need a lot of sleep. And I fell asleep in the last bus home, and I woke up in the bus depot. And the
Oh,
bus driver was like, "What are you doing still on the bus?" And I was like, "Oh, dude, I fell asleep," in French, which I couldn't say now. And he was like, "I'm going to go take my break. You'll stay on this bus, and then you'll come on the next route with me." And like, I didn't have my cell phone. And so I just had to hang out on the bus, do the other loop. And then, where have you been, dude? Like,
yeah,
what? I just lose you guys on my speakers. No.
we're good now. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good. I think it's that sense of, I remember thinking I was powerful. We're good, we can hear you. But I remember thinking I was powerful for the very first time. I used to call my French like a superpower. It was this thing that nobody knew as an American walking around Rennes, that nobody knew that I had. And then going back to the States and Ohio, like I walked around like I felt like I was a superhero because I could like speak fluent French. And I think that was one of the very first times I felt special, in a not privileged way, which of course we were, but like I felt cool. And yeah, I think like you said, feeling adventurous and being able to do things at 16, to roam around France is a pretty amazing experience. I know we have, oh my gosh, I knew this is going to go so fast because I feel like we could talk about a million things. Let's talk about your first, actually, I want to get into Cruel Summer because I want to make sure that we have time to talk about this. I admittedly was like, okay, that's a show for young adults, and in preparation for this, I watched it, and I'm so glad I did because I was like, holy crap, Tia is really great. Like that just makes the chat even better. But this is your first time running a show. So for the uninitiated, a showrunner is the person who runs a show. Can you talk about kind of your journey getting to run your own show and what that's like for you?
I'll say one more thing, just because my AirPods cut out, about your previous question, which is, it really taught me like American is not the default, which I think that has really helped me. Like the packages that we got before we went were like, you're going to be cold because Americans overheat their house. The French people don't do that. It wasn't, America does it the right way and other countries are different. It was, you're new and you're going to adapt to them, which I think is really important, has really helped my writing a lot. Anyway, showrunning.
That's great. Yeah.
I just think that's one of the most important gifts and lessons and perspectives you can give young people.
Yeah.
And showrunning, how did I come across that? I sort of fell into it in an unusual way. The creator of Cruel Summer ended up leaving for, a variety of reasons. He created this beautiful show, and I got the gift of running it, and in a pandemic, and it was in Texas and I was in LA. So it was like, take show running, which is a hard job, but then put weights on your feet.
Oh, wow.
and you're swimming in a pool. Like it was all these extra things. And we had COVID testing, and it was trial by error, but I staffed a lot. So staffing is, you're a writer and you work on someone else's TV show. So I was on 1 million episodes of Grey's Anatomy. I had seen many showrunners on many different shows, and I sort of took tools and great things that they did, a little bit from all of them, a lot from Tony and Joan, who Jeff knows, and applied what I thought I saw succeed. And it was really fun. I never knew if I wanted to run a show. I knew I wanted to write, but showrunning is a little management and a little leadership, which has never been my strong suit. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it so much. It's the funnest job in the world.
It's funny because I talk to other writer friends and they're like, yeah, I just want to be staffed and just write on a show and then I'm good. And I'm like, but what's the bigger goal? Like for me, I would love to run a show. I would have to have an ample supply of like Xanax nearby just in case. But like, I feel like that's the goal, is to change, that's telling the story that you want to tell in the most controlled way, I suppose. But that's amazing. So do you, were you surprised by the reaction? I think it was CW's highest rated debut for a new show. Something I'm not quoting correctly.
Freeform. It's the biggest thing Freeform's ever had.
Yeah.
I was shocked because it doesn't really matter. You have to be happy about the art you make. And you can make great art and no one will watch it. There's like I'm not the marketing department. I'm not the programming department. I can't help who gets eyeballs on my show. So we were like, we think we made a special show and yay for us, and people watch it or they won't, but we left it all in the field and man, people watched it,
Yeah.
which is great. It's gravy. Great stuff is out there all the time and nobody watches it. So we're super proud.
Well, especially in a time where, I mean, we're in this kind of golden age of so much incredible content where you get to the point where you're overwhelmed because you have too many options, which is such a blessing. But to have, to get any show made is a nearly impossible feat, but for it to be such a massive hit is incredible. Oh gosh. Now I'm having stress that I have to make sure we get to all of the questions. You know what? We had a couple questions from classmates and I want to make sure I get those because you have some classmates and I think I have a couple up here. This is from, I don't know who this is from, but I'm going to say, what advice would you give someone looking to pursue screenwriting or film as a career? And do you think a degree in either of those, like film or TV screenwriting, is needed from your, stance as a showrunner?
I don't think a degree is needed. I don't know if everyone agrees with that. The books are out there. If you're a self-starter, read them on your own, read scripts, self-educate, writers write, which is advice I need to take myself. But just like pick up a pen or your computer and start writing. And just, I guess, don't be afraid to take that entry-level job. That was so pivotal for me, is being willing to go get the coffee and don't whine about it. It sucks, but it's a great way in.
Yeah. Great. This comes from Petra.
Hi, Petra.
You covered a little bit of this, but I want to make sure your classmates, did you know all those years ago walking around Allée Saint-Marie that one day, I'm sure I had a Chinese accent when I said that one day you'd end up in Hollywood? Hugs to you, Tia. That's from Petra with a little heart emoji. No.
It's not. Hi, Petra. We had the best class. No, but I do remember really distinctly Heidi saying, she wanted to put on a production of Les Mis. And I was like, are you crazy? We're just students. And she was like, oh, I do big things. And it was like I was like, I want to be best friends with this girl, which is such a big part of why I'm here and why I'm doing what I do. So, fate, I guess, or whatever.
Do you have a recommended way to dip our toes in the entertainment industry while still living, this didn't say name, but still living in Massachusetts? So that's an interesting question given where we are right now in the world. I don't know if I'm assuming your Cruel Summer season 2 writer's room has already started. So are you still doing this virtually? Because this does feel like a good time to break in as a writer if you're not in LA. Is that correct?
It is a really unique time to do that because things are virtual. We have a hybrid room. I'm not there because I just had a baby and he hasn't had his shots, but it is a unique time where there are internships where you don't have to move here. There are assistant jobs where you don't have to move here. And I would seize that opportunity and maybe this will change, but before now, you had to be in LA. It was like no two ways about it.
Yeah. What are some of the challenges you face today? Like what, I know, so let's take Cruel Summer as an example. Some of for those who haven't watched it yet, it is about a girl who goes missing, teenage girl who goes missing, potentially abducted. So I'm sure when you guys were in the writer's room, it was like, how do we tackle this in a way that is not, hurtful? I'm sure you've talked about this a lot in the press as well. But can you talk a little bit about, how you navigated that?
Yeah, it's very thoughtful. Storytelling is important no matter what story you're telling, no matter how dark and deep. And of course, when you're dealing with grooming, when you're dealing with teen issues, it's even more important. And something I learned on Grey's was we had a lot of medical consultants because we didn't want to put out harmful medical stories that would be bad for, what the public thinks they should do if they're sick or things like that. And I just applied that process to Cruel Summer. So we consulted experts. We consulted with Hollywood Health and Society. We just really did our homework. I think responsible storytelling over shock value is just important through and through.
What is it like watching your writing come to life? The first time I saw someone do a play that I had written,
Yeah.
I was bawling, and I'm not a crier. I thought it was I always thought I wanted to be an actor, which I still do, but there was nothing compared, for me, there was nothing compared to seeing other people speak words that I had written. I don't know why. It was similar to that powerful feeling of speaking French. What's it like for you?
It's whatever came out of my head. So I'm always just looking like, do you guys think this is good? Like, I don't, I'm like, this is just how I talk and how I think. I find it embarrassing. I feel naked. I feel naked when I share the first draft. I feel naked when it airs on TV. That's the only feeling for me.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I get the, like, anytime I share something to anybody, I feel like I have to preface this with, if this sucks, it's okay for you to just go ahead and tell me. Like, it's fine. If this is the worst thing you've ever read, you know what I mean? And rarely does anybody ever say anything bad about it. So it's a vulnerable thing, though.
It's very vulnerable. And when you're show running, I've seen it so many times. I've seen it in editing a million times over. So it's sort of ceased to hold meaning for me. So seeing somebody else see it for the first time and laugh or smile or cry, it's
yeah.
I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah. But it is amazing. Especially as a showrunner, you provide work to people as well. And you give, these young teenagers, well, some of them are, I'm sure, in their 20s, but like your cast now has jobs and they can pay their bills and their loans and all of that stuff.
It's been a huge honor to get to try to be a boss that I would want to work for. Like, I just kind of golden rule, put myself in the shoes of how did I want to be treated when I was these other people, and getting to collaborate with people and have a nice workplace. It's one of the greatest honors and like the greatest motivator to like want a second season is like hundreds of people work on this TV show. And like, I hope, and I think it's a nice place to work. Who wouldn't want to keep that going for the world?
That's one of the big reasons that I enjoy writing and want to work towards that goal. We have 2 minutes. If anybody wants to squeeze in a question, you can raise your hand. I guess there's a raise your hand function. You'd think I would know more about this after a year and a half on Zoom, but what do I know? What's next? So you're working on season 2 of Cruel Summer. Would you be open to doing, my dream is to do this big international project with all of these different languages which should be easier now with, Call My Agent and Squid Game, and now Hollywood's going, oh, we don't necessarily need to have all famous American actors. What if and when Cruel Summer ends, what would be your ideal next project?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm developing a bunch of stuff right now. Cruel Summer taught me how much I like speaking for young women, teen girls, especially in period pieces. So I would want to do more of that, more character pieces about young women.
Okay. We do have one question that came up in the chat. When you talk about being a boss you'd want to work for, what are the things you've picked up in other rooms that you've introduced in yours? Oh, good question.
Tony and Joan, who are a married writing team and my mentors, they give great feedback, especially Tony. Tony's so consistent and he really goes out of his way to mentor. And on Council of Dads, he made it clear we are a mentoring facility. We are going to mentor the assistants. That's your job when you join my staff. And I tried to take that page out of his book and bring it to Cruel Summer and encourage the writers to really foster relationships with younger writers, with support staff, mentor them, take them under our wing. So that's one thing.
Okay. You're so great. You're so like concise with your, I was saying to Susan, and thank you to Susan McLean, saying, oh my gosh, I'm sure we could talk for at least an hour or so. And it's like, this is half an hour. So you're doing great.
Busting out.
Yeah, the busting up. I guess we can end with this. What are you most proud of in your writing career? Do you have an episode where you're like, I wrote that, I saw my credit for the first time, or was it an email that somebody wrote you or somebody found you on social media? Like, there's so many ways to, I guess, feel like you're making a difference in your work.
Oh gosh, that's such a hard question.
Oh, is it? Yeah, I guess.
I guess my first episode, which was a Grey's Anatomy episode, it was called Walking on a Dream. It went really well. And it's just so hard to get that first one. It's like actually getting over that obstacle is so crazy that I can't believe it actually happened. And everything else after that is just gravy.
Admittedly, maybe my biggest writing dream is to see my name on Grey's. That's been
Wow.
not kidding. I've seen every episode, all the characters. So it's hard though, you know, when you're in a town where it feels like your dreams are getting like crushed every day. Sometimes it's hard. What we can end with this. What keeps you going?
Oh, I really like what I do. I don't know what else I would do. I'm not good at other stuff. So it's just, I'm blessed to really like my job. And that's like very motivating to me.
Yeah, I say that all the time. I don't know what else I would do.
Yeah.
Don't know what else I would do, which is, it fuels you, but it's also terrifying because what if you don't get to do what you want to do? We'll end with I keep saying we'll end with any last minute questions. We don't have any from the, thank you to everybody who's been here. Advice for students. We have some students who are watching around the world, either live or via tape, satellite, internet, whatever they say. For students who are in their programs right now, what advice do you have for them? I know that's another big question, but whether they're interested in entertainment or they're not sure what to do next or how to really embrace everything that's happening to them.
Get internships if you can. I don't know if that's still a thing that's happening. It was really great for me just to feel out the workplace. Also get regular jobs. If people are still doing that, like drive for Uber, deliver Postmates, like learn a work ethic and how to work with other people, because I think that will carry you very far. And just reach out to people. Our PA now was in school at USC and she cold emailed me. And I was like, that was really forward and I like it. And now she works on Cruel Summer. So you never know who you're emailing.
I love hearing that stuff because I've been here for how long? I've heard your name for years now. And I never thought to just cold email you and say, like, hey, we have 20 people in common. And I'm, you know what I mean? I think about the Hollywood, people are always angling and they have ulterior motives. And I just don't want to appear like that. But yet we have so many good people in common. It would be in any other industry, it would be a normal thing to do. Hollywood's such a weird place.
Yeah.
I tweeted at you.
You did?
I tweeted, oh no, like last week when that was the first time we had ever talked. And I was like, I hope this isn't inappropriate. And I'm like, I gotta stop thinking, you know, there's just proves there's always learning to do, right?
There's learning to do.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Tia, for taking the time to talk to us. Thank you for all the good work that you do for introducing me to Cruel Summer. I can't wait to see what happens next season. I have a couple thoughts on what might happen, but hopefully it'll be different because it'll be better. So please keep in touch and let us know what's going on. Hopefully we'll get to do a part 2 at some point. Maybe when you're publicizing Cruel Summer season 2, we'll get to talk again. And in the meantime, no, wait. Oh, I see. Okay, I'm getting messages. In the meantime, you are on Twitter?
I am.
So you can find Tia, is it just Tia Napolitano? Something, I can't remember what you're pretty easy to find.
Tia_Lucia, but you can, if you Google me, you'll find me.
Yeah, it came up. So yeah, feel free to check in. Say, I had a hashtag. I think you started the hashtag SYA forever, so I'm good with that. We can get a little SYA, like talk to, you know, find out some of the current students and alums from around the world. Let's keep this community going. But otherwise, congrats on the new baby. Congrats on Cruel Summer. We're looking forward to Cruel Summer 2. And hopefully I'll get to see you like live in person with or without mask at some point in time as we sit here and hope that this pandemic ends. So in the meantime, stay safe and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Tia. And thank you to everybody at SYA. Thank you, Tom. And thank you, Susan, for all that you do. And we'll see you all soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye.